Looking at the global migration numbers, English-speaking countries tend to allow in more immigrants than countries in the East Asia, for example. Why the disparity? Well, what is the true impact of immigration on a country, you ask? Well, I talked about that and much more with Demetrios Papademetriou. He's the president and co-founder of the Migration Policy Institute.
And yeah, there's a large disparity, and it comes down to a single, fairly simple aphorism. Those countries that choose most of the immigrants that they get do better. Those that are, in quotes, chosen by immigrants, that means those that allow a lot of illegal immigration, a lot of low-skill immigration, a lot of family immigration. In the United States, almost 2/3 of all immigration is family immigration. Then tend to have, a more mixed kind of set of effects. Canada is doing extremely well, but it chooses about 2/3 of all of its immigrants on the basis of education and skills. So humanitarian, which is refugees, and family is only 1/3.
So do immigrants drive economic growth, or are they a drain on public resources? Because we see both of those arguments.
And because those arguments have some basis in truth, but mostly it's how people experience migration, okay? So the more needy, uneducated, sort of, let's try to get the hell out of here and make it to another country the people are, the more they cost in terms of resources at the place where they actually settle. That includes education, health care, other kinds of services, et cetera, et cetera. But over time, these people become net contributors. Now, if you choose a lot of your immigrants and they're educated, et cetera, these people come in, and the day after they come to your country, essentially they have a job, they pay taxes, they put more into the coffers, whether it's at the community level, at the provincial or state level, or at the national level. So immigration expands the economy clearly. The idea that somehow there's a finite number of jobs, 11 jobs, if an immigrant comes in and takes one of those, a native or a previous immigrant will lose that job, is something from the 50s.
As you look at the landscape, though, I mean, the imagery that we see, we're bombarded with young children on the border of the United States, people screaming, yelling, buses of illegal immigrants being trekked here or there. We see the boats, and we hear the harrowing tales of these people trying to make it to Europe, and many of them dying. Have you ever seen a time like this?
No, I have never seen a time like this. And I mean ever. I've been in this business for a year or two, or 45. You can make your own choice on this. Never seen anything like that. We've seen isolated events, the Haitians in 93, 94. We have seen isolated events over there. They didn't come from outside of Europe, but it was the breaking apart of the Yugoslavia. And frankly, I must say that we haven't seen anything like that since the 5 or 6 years following the Second World War, when we had all this exchange of populations, et cetera, et cetera. Nothing like that in Europe or in the United States. And that is a troubling development, as it were, because we're not clear that if we do X, Y will happen. And because the system is so broken in every country, governments are afraid to experiment. And you only get to some, what we might call good practices, by experimenting.
The time is definitely right for some experimentation, one would suggest.
Indeed.
Demetri, thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure, as always.